ended mother-in-law's career after she ruined our lives. Context: I've posted a bit about my fiancé's adoptive mother, Susan, in the last couple weeks, but for anyone unfamiliar with Susan, she was my lecturer when I was at university. Susan hated that I was dating her adopted son, biological nephew, since she found out about us. When we first told her we were dating, she tried to kill me via allergy, another story for another day, and after she found out I was pregnant, she stalked us, impersonated me, and broke into our flat, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. She made our lives hell, to the extent where we no longer felt safe in our own home, and my fiancé and I had to move across the country to escape her. We've been living in our new place for a little under a week. The baby is due in a couple of months, and everything is mostly ready. We've deactivated our social media, created new emails, and changed our numbers. Only a few friends and relatives from the town she lives in, which we left, have our new numbers. We had to leave our entire lives and everyone we knew and loved behind while I was 7 months pregnant because we couldn't trust her around our baby. Revenge. On Monday, an email was sent from the dean to Susan's graduating students saying Susan was being considered for a promotion from lecturer to head of department, and they wanted to hear from her students first. The aim of this was to receive glowing recommendations to give to the board. This was not the result. As I changed my email, I hadn't seen this. One of my friends who had my new number and was on the course with me did see the email, and on Tuesday he gave my new number to the dean, saying that he would only give her the number in person on paper and only if she agreed to ring when she was alone and throw out the paper and erase it from the logs after. If she was calling from a university phone, then the number would go on the call logs that were accessible by all members of staff, but he assured her that this was something she'd want to hear before promoting Susan. So I got this call from the dean on Tuesday. She told me what was going on. My friend hadn't had time to get in touch before she rang, and she asked me why my friend thought I should speak to her. I told her everything. I started 2 years ago, when I met Susan's son, the man who would become my fiancé and the father of my child. I told her about Susan poisoning me via allergy after finding out about me and her son, and the EpiPen incident. I told her about the outside-of-class harassment I received post-pregnancy announcement, impersonating me, crashing GP appointments, breaking in, etc. I told her about the in-class harassment, telling me to break up with my fiancé, stopping lectures until I left, throwing out my food and drink, trying to reschedule exams, and more. I told her about the last time I saw Susan in person, when she tried to hit me while I was 7 months pregnant with her grandchild. I told her about having to move away. I was careful not to give a location or distance, and filing a restraining order to escape Susan. I thought the uni were made aware of the RO, but apparently not. Fiancé then arrived home from work, and when I told him what was happening, he was all too eager to chime in with stuff I forgot, copying keys, punching the landlord, canceling orders, going through our things. He also told the dean about the abuse he got from her growing up. We also gave the dean the names of people willing to support our story, as well as some dates, times, and locations of on-campus incidents. I'd made a note of a few of them so she could pull CCTV from the campus security recordings. Fiancé also told her the story of one of his cousins, Susan's bio kid, who got close with a guy on Susan's course, but the guy was told to break up with her by Susan with a thinly veiled threat against his academic career. We also told the dean about Susan telling me to break up with my fiancé and vice versa so she could better maintain professionalism. The dean was horrified. She had me and my fiancé record a video where we said everything all over again from the top. We made sure the video had nothing to identify location, and we were assured Susan would never see it. We also sent her all the proof we had alongside it. This was all forwarded to the board on Wednesday and Thursday. She asked my friend for the number again and just called me for the second time, telling me that the board unanimously agreed this was grounds for Susan's dismissal. They said that while the outside of uni events weren't really their business, they go towards her character and the fact that as department head, she would represent the department, whether she was on the clock or not. They said even without this, the events that happened inside of uni alone, stopping lectures, telling me to dump my fiancé, telling that other guy to leave her daughter alone, throwing out my stuff, seeking special treatment on grounds of nepotism, were all abuses of power and enough to justify Susan's dismissal. They asked me why I hadn't filed charges, and I said all I'd gain from filing charges is Susan staying away from me, and the RO and moving away has the same effect. Plus, as it's exam season, my tutor work is really taking off, and I don't have the time to go through a whole court case, and I'll have even less time once the baby arrives. The baby is due in about 8 weeks, and Susan has already caused me enough stress. Tomorrow, in the meeting where Susan is fully expecting to be told she got her promotion, the dean is now going to give her a week to hand in her resignation. If she refuses, she will be fired. If she does not hand in her resignation, she will be fired. She will not be getting a reference. The only reason she is being given the option to resign is that she has worked at this university for nearly a decade, but if she so much as raises her voice in the meeting tomorrow, she will be fired. Security will be present for the meeting in case she tries anything. Meanwhile, the friends we left behind aren't hesitating to tell anyone who will listen all about what Susan did during the course of mine and my fiancé's relationship. There's not a single soul left in that town who trusts her or will take her side if she tries to fight back, not even her husband, who told us that now all their kids are over 18, he will be initiating divorce proceedings. I don't feel even a little bit bad. I know there's a chance I went too far, but I didn't lie or embellish anything. I just gave the dean the facts as they are. Everything is 100% true, and while it was me who told the dean, I see this as Susan's actions having consequences. Susan has more than enough money to pay for herself for the foreseeable future. She owns her home. Her husband's name is not on the deed, and she bought it before they got married. So, she will get the house in the divorce, as it's not technically a shared asset, or one acquired during their marriage. She will have a roof over her head and money in her bank account, and if she wanted to, she could get another job, just probably not one as a lecturer. FAQs. What is Susan and fiancé's relationship exactly? Biologically, they're aunt and nephew. Fiancé's parents were in and out of his life a lot growing up, and when they were out of his life, they'd leave him at Susan's place, and when he was 14, they left for good, at which point Susan said she'd adopted him. Fiancé has never seen proof of this, but she refers to herself as his mother and to him as her son. What is the EpiPen/poisoning accident? I'm severely allergic to peppercorn, as in salt and pepper, and shortly after Susan found out we were dating and asked us to break up, she then invited us to dinner to apologize. I offered to cook as I had my pepper allergy to work around, and she insisted on cooking. Fiancé also reminded her of the pepper allergy, as did his uncle/her husband. She cooked pepper-crusted turkey. Susan insisted it was a palate issue, and I needed to stop being fussy. I didn't eat it, but due to my proximity to a giant lump of cracked and cooked pepper combined with the severity of my allergy, I was sat at the table with the turkey right in front of me. I wound up inhaling enough that I began to violently cough and felt lightheaded. My fiancé went to get me water while I went for my EpiPen. I couldn't open it, and Susan took it off me. I pointed to where she should administer it, and instead of doing that, she asked me if I was sure about not breaking up with my fiancé. Uncle arrived, saw what was happening, called my fiancé into the room, and between them they got my EpiPen, administered it, and drove me to A&E. To this day, Susan insists that no one is allergic to pepper. I'm just fussy, and even though I should have pressed charges at the time, not only was she still my lecturer, but law enforcement says that being stupid isn't a crime. What the hell is going on with the faculty? At my uni, there are visiting part-time lecturers referred to as junior lecturers, then there's full-time lecturers who are referred to as senior lecturers, then there's the head of department. This is not a rotating position. Each position comes with a pay bump, and the head of department runs the compulsory module each year. The head of department, once appointed, is the head of department until they resign, are fired, or retire. Why was the dean so transparent? From what the dean told us, it's a health and safety issue, as well as a legal one. Susan has proved to us that she's a threat to our safety and well-being. We proved that to the dean with testimony and evidence, and now if the dean gets rid of Susan, Susan could go after us. The dean needs to keep us in the loop in case this happens, so the uni isn't liable in case Susan comes after us. How is this all done so quickly? I think they wanted it sorted quickly and quietly. They need to announce the new head of the department soon, and they had a few options, but Susan was the frontrunner. The email I didn't see sounds like it extended to all candidates, so if former students had any thoughts on the other two options, they were free to email about them too, but when my friend saw that Susan was an option, he took matters into his own hands as he knew about everything she'd done. I will admit to guessing and filling in the blanks here and with the other uni stuff, but the dean didn't explain everything to us, so a lot of stuff me and fiancé are trying to fill in the gaps between us. Why no police? The same reasons we listed above. Between the baby, the move, and the new job, we have no free time. We think that the RO and moving will be enough to keep her away, but if she comes near us again, we've agreed to contact the police and see through the court case. But with all the shit going on, we don't have time. We were also told when we were first asked about court that if she fought us, her lawyer would have the right to cross-examine us, and for that to happen, we would need to be in the courtroom. Whether this happens before or after the baby is born, we don't want to even be in the same town as her right now, let alone in the same courtroom. Regardless of security, we wouldn't feel safe. Won't Susan blame you for all this? She'd blame us for this even if we had nothing to do with it. We're preparing as if she's going to knock on our front door any second and ask where we went. And because of this, we have no less than 4 separate backup plans in case something does happen. When I said she had money to support herself, she does, but she doesn't have PI money or money to travel all over the place searching for us. Any therapy? Fiancé is in therapy because of her RN. Tried to get her in therapy, but she didn't want to. She went for 1 session with my fiancé as a mother-son thing, and never again. What's the security situation at your new place? We have and are in the process of installing one of those doorbells with video feed and CCTV. We replaced the short screws in the doors with longer ones. Our place has a high metal fence with a locked metal gate on the front, and we're looking into if it's possible to fit a keypad or something similar, so we'd have a code on it. Our new hospital has had some issues with the maternity ward in the last couple years, so they upped security in a big way, and now all visitors have to wear passes and sign in with photo ID, and they have a system where once the person signing in puts in their name, they type it into a computer, and the computer will alert them if this person is banned, like Susan is, and in that case she will not get her visitor pass, and therefore not be able to access the ward. Can't she track you via social media? We've erased everything from our social media, deactivated our accounts, never mentioned anything about the place we moved to online or IRL. Fiancé works in IT, and he's in the process of erasing all our accounts. What about this Reddit account? It's a throwaway account being updated from my old phone via mobile data. I have my new phone and number now. It's how my friend contacted me, but the old phone is still in service, so I'm updating via that, and once I'm done with this whole saga, this account is also going to be gone for good. Final update *, the dean said the firing was happening last week. She said that if Susan didn't present us as a danger to us, for example, if Susan lost her cool and yelled something like, "This is all her fault," then the dean couldn't break confidentiality, and as we've not heard from her since, we can only assume that she took it well. Or as well as possible. We've read your comments / replied, and we're talked and done some thinking, and we've agreed to look into legal options. We're still not totally sure about pursuing a court case, but we realize that Susan isn't just going to let this go, and she won't be willing to just leave us alone. We also weren't informed that the RO would have our address, and my fiancé was also hesitant because despite her actions, Susan did, for the most part, raise him. We looked into it, and it doesn't look like she actually adopted him, so that's something. We're gathering all the evidence we have against her, plus anything the dean, landlord, or anyone else still has, and we're meeting a lawyer later this week as we agree that our personal safety and the safety of our child should come first. Now to the next story. Me and Karen, a love story. Just kidding. Karen is a total bitch, but buckle up because here is my novel. My husband and I are in our late 30s and child-free. Some people on child-free said I should post here too, so enjoy the saga. My husband and I had been saving up for almost a decade to move to a tropical paradise. About 2 years ago, we bit the bullet and moved to our dream location. Housing here is super expensive, like Hawaii prices, so all we could afford was half of a duplex. It is beautiful and on the water with places for our boat. Unfortunately, Karen, Billy Bob, the boyfriend, and her 3 gremlins live in the other unit. Setup. There is some period of time we just went for a week here and there, but we live here full-time now. The entire duplex was owned by an older gentleman who rented out both sides. The sides do not match at all. One side is a 5-bedroom, 3-bath. The other side of the duplex is a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. We bought the 5-bedroom. On our side of the property, we have 90% of the backyard, a gazebo, and dockage, about 150 foot since it is on a corner. The other side has a small backyard, patio, and maybe 15 foot of dockage. The rental leases say the renters are entitled to their specific backyards, but there were no fences or anything, so all the renters shared the entire backyard. After we bought the house, Karen immediately tried to throw her weight around that they expected to continue with that privilege that I told her if she asked politely, we would try to accommodate her. She thought this meant she could use our backyard whenever she wanted. Party incident. One day my husband and I are enjoying some drinks outside when a delivery truck shows to set up a giant blow-up thing in our backyard. I asked Karen what the F she thought she was doing, and she said it was her kid's birthday. Then she had the gall to say it was a family and friends only event, so we had to stay inside our house. Not wanting to be a total asshole and ruin some little girl's birthday, I told Karen after this she had no access to our backyard, period. Karen shrugged and kept setting up for the party. During the party, a drunk adult wandered into our house, which shocked us all. I said Karen's house is the other side, and he said, "Oh." Karen said she owned the whole property and to use whichever bathroom was available. I directed him to Karen's bathroom, and soon after she came storming into our house, screaming about how dare we make her look bad to her friends and how selfish we are we couldn't even spare one bathroom. She said we didn't deserve all this space with just us. I told Karen to get the hell out of my house, or I would be calling the cops. She finally left, and the party wrapped up shortly after. Backyard remodel. After the party incident, we decided we needed to clearly define the backyard and build a fence. While we were spending the money, we decided to update the patio, put in a fire pit, and an outdoor kitchen. While the contractor was on site, nosy Karen had to come investigate. Since the fence would be the last thing built, I was vague and just stuck to telling her about the patio update. You could see her face light up because, of course, in her mind, what's ours is hers. When the workers started on the fence, Karen came out screaming for the work to stop. I went outside and told the workers to keep working and told Karen to butt out. Of course, in true Karen fashion, she called the cops. What happened next was hilarity on my part after explaining to the cop that we were building a fence on our property and the landlord, of which Karen was not, knew about it. When the cop gave Karen a stern lecture, I thought her head was going to explode. She went back into her house and slammed the sliding door so hard it sounded like something cracked. We got our fence, and I thought that would be in the end, but of course not. The boat incident. One day, Billy Bob entered the picture, and he was as much a terrible neighbor as Karen. He would throw cigarette butts and empty beer cans over our fence for disrespecting his woman. I didn't know Paradise had trailer trash, but Billy Bob is the epitome of the stereotype. Billy Bob has a boat. A 30-foot fishing boat, to be precise. Of course, that side of the duplex only has 15 foot of dockage. Since we have so much dockage and only one boat, we rent out the other dockage spots as month to month. People come and go, so if we don't receive rent from them by the end of the month and the boat disappears, we think nothing of it. We had a renter who tied up their boat on the property line, but Billy Bob wanted to park his boat and needed that space. Karen and Billy Bob posed as us. We were out of town, told the renters to be gone at the end of the month, and then parked Billy Bob's boat on the dock. I only found out about it weeks later because the renter left a nasty review on the rental site we use. They said we were rude and went back on the verbal agreement to let them stay for 3 more months. I was like, what the fuck is all this? After a phone call, I quickly put 2 and 2 together. I called the cops, who told Karen and Billy Bob they need to move their boat or it would be towed. The equivalent of it anyway. Karen and Billy Bob started screaming the boat is fully on their property, it isn't, then changed to no one can own the water. True, but a seawall is deeded. That we are liars, and at some point Billy Bob punched a cop and went to jail. I felt bad for the cops, so took them all snacks the next day with a note apologizing for neighbor drama. I ended up winning my small claims suit against them for lost rental income, but of course haven't seen a dime. I eventually convinced the dockage renters to come back and gave them a few months free as compensation. Final revenge. If you've made it this far, congratulations. Get ready for a juicy justice boner. So, with the collapsing market, We were trying to figure out what to do with our savings when a perfect opportunity opened up. The landlord who owned both properties was in desperate need of some cash and was tired of managing the property from 2,000 miles away because, of course, Karen is Karen and called him weekly for every little thing. His only stipulation was we let the poor single mom who has been his renter for 8 years finish her lease, which is up in July. Since we just have money we were trying to reinvest, and because now we get to control our neighbors, heck yeah, we jumped on that. Since we didn't need a realtor or mortgage and an inspection had been done just a year ago for the old landlord to refinance, everything closed in just under 2 weeks. Karen was aware of a change of ownership. We registered the property under an LLC, but didn't know who until 8 days ago. I went over to Karen's house and knocked on the door. Karen answered with a, "What the fuck do you want, cunt?" I smiled, handed her our landlord information, and sweetly reminded her that her rent was due by Friday, but she could just hand me the check if that was easier. I've always heard descriptions of people's faces turning white, but this was the first time I have actually seen it. I told Karen that we are honoring her lease until the end of July, but afterwards she had better make plans to move, because we instead remodel it before these next tenants moved in.
Bye, bitch.
Edit. A lot of people misunderstood the beginning. Let's call our side of the duplex Duplex OP. The other duplex is Duplex Karen. We purchased Duplex OP. After we bought it, Duplex OP was no longer a rental. Both Duplex OP and Duplex Karen were for sale independently, but we only had the money to buy Duplex OP. Duplex Karen is still a rental because it has never sold. Now we own both Duplex OP and Duplex Karen. Duplex Karen is still a rental. Duplex OP is still not a rental. When we made property improvements to Duplex OP, it was ours and not a rental. Update 1. Not much to update, folks. Karen and family's lease isn't up until the end of July. Rent has been paid on time. As far as I know, she doesn't have a new place lined up. We've served her 30-day notice. We will not be renewing the lease. We also offered in writing that we'll prorate July and waive the termination fee if they want to leave before the end of the lease. Beyond the near weekly loud parties and having to call the police because the kids were throwing lit fireworks at our boat, not much beyond the norm. Update 2. Long story short, Karen and family are still in the place and not paying any rent. They were served with eviction, but due to COVID stuff, we can't actually do anything about it. At least Karen and Billy Bob had a giant fight which ended up in him being arrested, and he hasn't returned. I've been told by our lawyer, once some laws are changed/removed in September, we can have the police escort them off the property that day since we've already filed the eviction. It's just a shit show right now. Karen is being extra smug. She tried to push her bounds and kept coming over to our property. A talk with a cop set her straight, but she's playing music loud and just tossing her trash everywhere. We really wanted to move our elderly parents in after a quick remodel because Dad needs shoulder surgery badly and Mom now needs a walker. They need more care, and it's getting harder driving 2 hours a day to do that. Our parents want their own space, though, and won't live on our side with us. My husband and I are trying not to be angry and make things worse with Karen, but we are both exhausted. Things just suck. Update 3. Life is weird.
Karen is still here.
Since we couldn't evict her, my partner went to stay with their parents for a few months so in-laws could get the surgery/care they needed. They're doing better now, which is great. Here's the weird part, though. In October, Karen's mother, Susan, came to live with her since Susan's landlord chose not to renew her lease. Susan is an angel. Susan was mortified at Karen's and the kids' behavior. Susan is a tough one and has been cleaning the house, both figuratively and literally. The kids are so much better behaved and Karen stomps around like a sullen child. Susan and I share drinks every few days in the backyard. We bake together too every weekend. For Thanksgiving and Christmas, since no one was traveling for the holidays, we made a big feast and set it up outside with some backyard games. It was a great time, and even Karen was being pleasant. I tried to tell Susan not to worry about rent until they found another place, but she insisted on paying. I lied about how much the rent was, so it's only a half payment, but it just covers the taxes/insurance. We drew up another lease that is month to month. Susan wants to move back home at some point and take her daughter with her. Karen, I think it's ready for a change too, but obviously with COVID it might take some time. It's pretty pleasant right now, though, so I'm in no hurry for them to leave.